Good afternoon, business owners, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and corporations. Welcome to the Black Business Network. My name is Sydney Wormsby, and I'm your business moderator for this afternoon on the Black Business Network. The Black Business Network is a 24-hour business network showcasing Black businesses, business owners, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders worldwide. We have speakers from North Carolina, from London, Singapore, Africa, Japan, and cities all over the United States. The Black Business Network is a global community sharing its business knowledge to empower, inspire, and to educate businesses about business. Our next speaker, are you in for a treat, is Caden Harris from Caden Teaches. A modern day visionary and award winning entrepreneur, Caden Harris puts together an exclusive take on financial literacy. Because of its body of work globally, he has been recognized and honored as a youth ambassador for the United Nations. In his written pieces and financial learning tools, he puts together peer-to-peer insight and guidance. His teachings mold the mindset of young scholars. Scholars will finish his programs understanding the following: practical money lessons, the importance of earning and saving money, and 12 rich tips to financial success for kids. When you hear Caden, you'll wonder why you use the excuses you use that you couldn't do something or accomplish something. So, further ado, please help me welcome Caden Harris.
Hi, how are you doing, Mr. Sidney?
I am doing fine, Caden. How are you?
I'm awesome.
They let you out of school today, or?
Well, I'm actually a high school graduate.
Wow, that is phenomenal. Congratulations.
Thanks.
We're going to have a fun, and Miss Dr. Harris, good to see you as well.
You as well. How are you?
Good. Glad to have you on.
Thank you for having
There's a ton of things that people are going to want to know, and that I'm going to want you to try and share with them. But I'm going to say first, Caden, why don't you tell folks how you got involved with this? How did you get involved in financial literacy? What sparked your interest, piqued your interest, and got you started on this path?
Well, I would always go to business meetings with my dad, and at that point, I didn't understand what financial literacy was. So I took it upon myself to learn about it and teach it to kids in a way that they could understand. Because I find that most kids graduate high school without even knowing the basics about financial literacy, and I know that really needs to change.
So you were going to these meetings, you were hearing about the topic and the concept, and you said, I want to learn more about it. How did you go from just getting that basic information to creating Caden Financial Literacy as a program?
Well, I joined the Generational Wealth Academy, and one thing that helps so much, it's pretty much a cheat code to success, is mentors. Mentors help so much, and you can have mentors in different areas. You can have health mentors, business mentors, stock mentors, just different things such as that. So mentors really helped me a lot.
Okay. Now, when you started working with those mentors and you were creating this program, did you always have it in mind that you wanted it to be a business, or did you start off with just it being a class or a subject, and then it turned into a business?
Well, I actually knew that I wanted to have a business because my sister Kennedy, she actually has her own business as well, where she has her own vitamins and seasoning company. And I saw that she was making money doing what she was doing, and I wanted to make money as well.
That's right. It's like, she's got some, I want some too, right?
Yes.
So y'all didn't have to go back to dad and mom and ask for, any kind of allowance ever, all right? Like, don't worry about it. I got my own.
Yes.
Great. So talk a little bit about what motivated you to start a business. So you said, yes, Kennedy had it, but there are lots of things that we see other people have, and it doesn't necessarily inspire. So was there something more that drove you to saying, I want to make this a business and to move forward?
I knew that I wanted to help kids in the next generation learn about financial literacy because that's something that's super important to me. just overall, like I said, having better cities, having better states, and just a better world overall.
So, Caden, while our guest comes back on, share a little bit about the impact that you make with kids.
The kids are super impacted because, just an example, the kids, I have my very own financial bus where the kids are able to learn how to earn, save, budget, and invest their money. And on the bus, I have a book where they go through it and they have to choose a career. And they always choose, well, most of the time they choose business owner because they say they want to be just like me and they see what I'm doing and they want to do something similar to it.
hmm So, let me ask you this as well, Caden. How do you make your business of financial literacy? How do you make that accessible to other kids?
I have created my programs, and right now I actually have a Facebook group where people can ask me questions, they can connect with me, and my one on one mentorship as well.
hmm So, you also have spoken for major corporations. Could you share a little bit about that for us and what impact that has on you?
Yes, I've worked with companies such as Microsoft. There was an amazing event, Allstate, where they actually paid me to speak, and I still use the recording from that, and I'm able to sell it now. I just sold a copy a couple weeks ago, so I recorded that like 2 years ago, and I'm still making money from it. And
Gotcha.
so actually, earlier this year, I worked with the Disney Dreamers Academy. So that was huge to be able to work with one of the biggest companies in the world, Disney.
So, how was that experience working with Disney?
It was great. They gave us VIP service, black car. We were able to go through all the secret ways and secret doorways to up on lines. We go through like a black hallway, and then we end up at the front of the line.
Awesome. Good to hear.
All right, sorry for the little glitch there. Dr. Harris, you have two kids, not one, but two that are young entrepreneurs. Uh, what's in the secret sauce that you put in your food at home? And how did you feel, when Caden decided, he wanted to have his own business as well? Was that something that you strongly supported, were curious, or maybe reserved about?
Well, actually, we come from a long lineage of entrepreneurs. My great aunt and uncle and some other family members actually owned the first two African American owned hotels here in Atlanta during the pre civil rights era. Both my parents owned companies. My wife and I own multiple companies. So, of course, apples usually don't fall far from the tree. So, when I saw that both kids had the aptitude and started picking up on the business acumen, I said, it only makes sense to at least expose them to business. And we
Mhm.
kind of let them make their own decisions. And we saw that that was the path that they started pursuing.
Okay. Now, was how long after Kennedy started her business was it that Caden started his?
It was probably right around the year mark. Kennedy started her company. Initially, she has a health and nutrition company, as Katie had alluded to earlier. And he would actually go to some of her events where she was selling her products and doing speaking. And he looked at it, as he said, he's like, wow, she's making money. I can do something to make money. So I would always just take both of them in the business meetings, as Kaden said. And he started picking up on things that we were saying in the business meetings.
Mhm.
And he would ask me, well, Dad, what's the dividend? What's the rate of return? What's an asset? What's a liability? And I saw that he started um, really started grasping what we were talking about. And he came to me one day and said, listen, Dad, I want to be able to teach the things that you teach to adults to kids in a cool and interactive way. So that was pretty much the genesis of his company.
Okay. Caden, how do you stay on top of the latest in terms of information and trends that are impacting the financial industry?
Throughout my different coaches, they keep me updated and things that I need to know to continue to move forward in my business and just in my life as well.
Okay. Now, with your program, Caden Financial Literacy, is it addressed for kids only starting at a certain age, or kids from what age group? Does it really focus on or I guess resonate with?
I would say that it's able to be learned the best from the tail end of middle school to high school, maybe even college as well.
Okay, all right. Now, if you look at what you're doing and what you're teaching, are there ways we call them? You probably are familiar with KPIs or key performance indicators. Are there certain things that you use to measure the kind of success that you're having with the program, individually with your students as well as with the companies or the company as a whole?
One thing that I learned from one of my mentors is to keep a database of all the information that you have. So I keep that saved and reserved after I do an event or just when I do different things in my business.
Okay. Now, tell us what your goal and objective is for Caden Financial Literacy.
My goal is to teach over 500,000 kids about financial literacy. I would say I've reached around 50,000 kids, but I just want to keep inspiring and just keep teaching kids about financial literacy. Because after 500,000, it may be a million, then 5 million, then
There you
10
go.
million, on and on and on.
Now, are you looking to expand the products or services that Caden Financial Literacy delivers?
Yes, definitely. So that it can reach more kids because, of course, I can't be everywhere at once.
Mhm.
Which is why currently I'm putting together a curriculum to be in schools. So I'm working with one of the top curriculum makers in my state,
All right, and that's going to be in high schools or middle schools and high schools.
middle schools and high schools.
Well, you have to keep us posted on the time frame for that too, so we can go out and for those who are listening who have children, can be an advocate for making sure that program gets into their kids' school as well.
Yes.
Um, can you give those folks out there maybe a specific success story that you've had with your program, or that someone who's used your program has written or told you about?
Well, I've had many people who've said that their kids have learned so much from it and they were super inspired and that their kids wanted to start their own business and that they would come to them asking, what is asset mean? What is a dividend? What is a liability? And they just wanted to know more.
Good. Dr. Harris, what is it? And Caden, you can close your ears right now. But talk about what it is that you feel about the work that your son is doing. His commitment to it. His motivation and energy. How does that make you feel as a father?
It makes me feel tremendously proud of him. When he was in the third grade, his teacher would call and always say, you know what, Caden is talking a lot in school. So typically, the ideal parent would probably think, okay, oh my God, what is he doing? I got to come and get him out of school. But in fact, what Caden was doing is he was helping other kids with their schoolwork. He was always encouraging them and inspiring them. So, of course, when you see something like that, you want to make sure that you channel that in the right direction. So, Caden came to my wife, Tara, and asked her, he said, look, Mom, I want to be homeschooled. So we asked, why would you want to be homeschooled? Long story short, he said, look, it doesn't take all day to go to school. So we ended up homeschooling Caden, and we really saw that we could really start pouring into him and that the impact that he could make in kids was just tremendous because many kids, particularly kids that look like Caden, they're only taught that they can either be an entertainer or an athlete to make money.
Mm.
So Caden provides a platform where he can show them different opportunities, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's being a biochemist, whether it's being a television director, just different options. So it inspires me when I see the kids get on his bus when they're at his speaking events and their whole outlook has dramatically changed in such a short period of time just by hearing his inspirational story.
It's great. That's not only heartwarming, but it's inspiring as well.
Yes.
Caden, for you, well, how old are you, Caden?
I'm 13.
13. We're about the same age. What are you laughing about? We're about the same age. Yeah. So I know when I was 13, and I coached kids that are 11 all the way up to 18 for 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds in middle school, their attention span isn't always the longest. So talk about what you did with designing your program that you think helps to keep kids engaged and motivated and connected to what you're trying to teach them.
I make it fun and interactive for them to be able to learn because, as you said, they have a short attention span and they start to tend to do other things. So I make it fun and interactive. I make sometimes jokes to make them laugh and get to know me more.
Okay. Now, are you able to incorporate that? Do you have a package as well? So do you teach this always in person, or do you also have an educational package or program that people can purchase and buy and use at home?
Yes, I do also have a program that people can use at home, but I do go into schools as well as speaking events.
So for the package program, how have you kind of incorporated that games and fun and play into that topic? Because obviously, you mentioned when you're doing the presentation, you can kind of add that flavor into your workshop or seminar. How do you make sure that gets into the program, the package program?
Yes, for example, I have my activity book that will also fit with some of the packages will go along with it, and it just teaches them. It has it in like I said, a fun and interactive way. So like have different games to do in it, like a financial word search, a financial maze, where it's still teaching a lesson, but they're able to have fun with it. And one of my other products I have is my puzzle, where they're able to have fun while they're still learning.
Great. Now, this one I'll go back to you, Dr. Harris.
Sure.
Talk about the thing that has surprised you about Caden in this journey with him being an entrepreneur and developing this program, et cetera. Was there something that he did, that he accomplished, that he achieved, that you said, "Wow, caught me off guard there"?
Yes, that is a great question. Caden actually could not talk until he was 5 years old. So it would sound like Charlie Brown, just wah, 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 wah. No one could understand what he was saying except my wife. And I got concerned, of course, as a parent. So we put him in speech pathology classes, speech therapy, and all kinds of different things like that. So his speaking started getting better. Him and his sister, we both put in Toastmasters when they were 7 because we understood the importance of creating soft skills at an early age. So that was his biggest struggle, which actually turned into his biggest victory, to become a platform speaker and to actually get paid to speak around the country and subsequently internationally. So that was the biggest takeaway moment as a father that I can look at to say that I'm super proud to know that he took a situation that was a lemon and turned it into a lemonade.
Super. Now, Caden, you got to be taking notes of all these things, because the next time your parents want to, kind of correct you on something or discipline you about something, you got to pull those nuggets out in the conversation. Remember, Dad, how proud you are.
Definitely.
So, in your program of teaching financial literacy, talk about maybe the financial concept that you think is most important, the most important thing for individuals to know and understand, Kate.
I would say one of the most important things for them to first learn is needs versus wants, or assets and liabilities.
Oh, preach. Say it again.
Needs versus wants, or assets and liabilities.
So explain that to folks out there who maybe don't have those things quite aligned, maybe got them a little bit twisted. What's the difference between a need and a want and an asset and a liability?
For a need and a want, a need is to know what's something that you actually need, and a want is just something that, of course, you want, and it's something that you don't need. It's just something that you desire. And an asset is something that puts money in your pocket, such as something like a house, because you can sell it, you can rent it out, put it on Airbnb. And something that would be a liability, something like a car, because all you would do is just use it and drive around. So it would be something that takes money out of your pocket.
Right. Okay. Unless you're an Uber driver, and
Yes,
then that's how you turn a liability into an asset, right?
yes.
Um, all right, good, good, good. Now, with that concept or those, kind of two concepts, talk about how incorporate that into your programming to make sure people are reinforced about that understanding and the distinction between those two.
Yes, I have a section in my bus where there's about grocery store, and they're able to learn the difference between needs and wants. And
Hmm.
after the liabilities, there's also a section in my presentations when I'm speaking that they're able to learn the difference between an asset and a liability. And we do a fun little mini game where they have to raise one hand if they think it's an asset, and raise two hands if they think it's a liability, and I'll just show them a ton of different things like going to Starbucks every day, shoes, a gaming console, just different things like that.
Great, great. Um, Dr. Harris, is your background also finance? It sounds like.
Yes, pretty much entrepreneurship. As I mentioned, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My first background was in the United States Air Force. I had a background in aerospace propulsion and aeronautics, and I always knew at that point that I still wanted to be an entrepreneur. So that's how I digressed and reprogrammed myself and got into real estate.
Oh,
So that was my
wonderful.
first company.
Okay. Well, first of all, we have something in common there. I wasn't in the military. I was a military brat, though.
Okay,
So I grew up. My dad served 25 years in the Air Force. So
awesome.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Congratulations.
So
Yeah.
I know the life and understand the benefits of it
Yes.
and the constraints.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about things that do in terms of working with Caden and his company, to maybe support from the things you've learned as an entrepreneur.
Yes, what we do is my wife and I we consult 6 and 7 figure earners to first build, grow, and scale their corporations. So a lot of the same principles we use there, we just converted over into Cadence world to be able to make it, as he said, fun and interactive that kids could understand, because kids have such an open canvas when they're
Mm-hmm.
young, and everything as adults that we do and or say to kids is like a swipe of the paintbrush. So many times we can speak so much negative in them, and then when we step back in 3 to 5 years, when they start really forming their self images, we can look and see if we painted a Picasso or do we paint a nightmare. So it's super important that we make the right brushstrokes on that canvas when it comes to developing kids. So that's why it's critically important that parents identify with the things that are interesting to the kids. Because growing up, I remember always hearing adults tell kids ought to be seen and not heard. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the biggest detriment that we can do to our kids, especially kids that look like us.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's important to start creating a strong vocabulary at a young age, to start creating business acumen, to start understanding the fundamentals of just life and growing up. And I remember being a kid, my parents would always have family meetings on the third Sunday of every month where we sat down and our parents talked to us at young ages about the finances, about the dynamics of the household, problem areas that we were having, whether it was financial, in business, or anything like that. So I think that's super important that we ensure that we start raising young leaders as early as they can start talking.
Continue on with that, Dr. Harris. Obviously, one of the dangers is of us not telling kids about the importance of or the proper use of money and financial literacy, et cetera. But what are some of the things that we tell them that you find to be the most detrimental in terms of kids really understanding finances, investment, and developing financial literacy and financial independence?
I think the biggest thing there that we're teaching kids that are hurting them is to trade time for money. The biggest thing is, I often hear people say, Sean, you got to work hard. You got to really work hard to get to the top. And it's not about working hard.
Hmm.
I can honestly say I've never really worked hard in my life. I've worked smart.
Hmm.
There's a difference. So we leverage our intelligent way of doing things. I always give the analogy of cutting grass. I can go out in my yard with a pair of scissors. It'll take me 3 weeks to cut my yard.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can get a push mower. It'll take maybe a couple hours. A riding mower, maybe 15, 20. Or I can just pay someone to cut the grass.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives me the freedom and autonomy to use that hour to be able to create more income, to be able to impact people in a more positive way. So I think it's super important that we start teaching kids to work smarter, not necessarily harder. And that way they can leverage. And now they're able to have both time and money freedoms, and they don't have to just chase money in exchange for their time.
Great. Okay. Caden, going back to you with a question about your programming. So again, you're dealing with children, kids who are middle school age, 12 all the way up through high school, 18, who have different interests, different capacities for learning, but also different ways of learning. So whether they like to be hands-on or be auditory and hear everything versus oh, I'm a visual learner, da da da. How do you incorporate all of those different aspects, especially about the kind of way people learn, into your program?
Yes, I have different things such as my flashcards. They're very great for visual learners because they're able to read the things that they're learning. I have audio books for people who like to hear things to be able to learn, and just different things such as that. Just my financial tools really help with that.
Okay, all right. I'm going to ask a couple more questions, and then I'm going to give you guys a chance to talk about how people can reach out and connect. But I'm going to ask first you, Dr. Harris, share the most memorable moment you've had in watching Caden develop his business and his program.
I would say his ability to take the bus that he bought that bus cash out of his own pocket. And just give a little quick backstory on that in the interest of time. Caden started texting me one day and referring to me as Mr. Bus Driver. So I was like, Caden, why are you calling me bus driver? He said, I'll tell you. So a couple of days later, we had Chinese food for dinner. He had a fortune cookie, and it read something along the lines of, you're going to receive a 4-wheel, fun, cool blessing in the near future. 2 weeks to that date, Caden bought that bus with his own funds. Then he did a $50,000 capital raise in less than 2 months to retrofit the bus to what you now see it as Caden Financial Literacy Bus. And they aired the whole process on a show called Big RV Remix on Hulu. So the biggest thing for me was to see him go through the no's. It's not the fact that he got the project done, but he went through a lot of no's to get to the yeses that he needed. And that was character building. And to see that he just kind of shrugged it off like, hey, no big deal. Let's go get another no. Because as soon as I get all these no's out of the way, I'm going to get my yeses, and he's going to achieve that goal. So that was the most proudest moment, seeing him as a young entrepreneur and having resilience to strive forward and get the job done.
All right. Now, Caden, here's an important question. Did you stuff that fortune cookie with that thing, or did it actually just end up there by chance?
It actually ended up there by chance. I framed it and everything. I put it in my room. And I was super shocked when I saw it. I opened it and I ran upstairs to go show my parents.
That's your story and you're sticking to it, right?
That's right.
So, Caden, I'm going to ask a similar question of you that I asked of your dad. Talk about the most memorable moment that you've had in your journey of building this company.
I would say for me, it's either graduating high school at 13 or speaking at the Disney Dreamers Academy.
Okay. Those are two impressive things to have as memorable moments. Most folks don't have one of those, much less two. So.
Yeah.
I guess a follow-up question to that would be, talk about the thing that you have learned the most, that you didn't know before, that became an aha, oh my gosh, a eureka, that you discovered in this whole journey, in this process?
I would say one thing overall that I've been able to learn so much about is different investments that there are. Like REITs is one that I recently found about with one of my stock mentors. just learning more about stocks and just overall different investments that you can use rather than the average stocks.
And Caden, can you share the importance of having the right mentor for the right job? Because of course we wouldn't ask a carpenter medical advice and wouldn't ask woodwork from a medical profession. So explain the difference between that because you've been studying a lot in the stock market arena lately.
Yes, different mentors in different areas help so much because I can't go ask my stock mentor and ask him to help me with my health or my health mentor to ask me in business because that would just mix what they do and it's not their specialty in what they do.
Okay. Obviously, you've gotten some, really key learnings, and you're pretty insightful, intuitive, and kind of self-aware. So, if you were going to give advice to the younger Caden as to, hey, what you should do differently, what would that be?
I would say, accept that there's going to be a lot of no's along your journey because, like my dad said, with funding the bus and crowdfunding, I went through a lot of no's. I went to a ton of companies and I went to a huge company and everything seemed like it was going to go perfectly. But eventually they ended up saying no. And that was one thing that I definitely had to get used to. And another thing is people not responding and not doing what they said they were going to do. Because people would say, yes, I'm going to invest. This is something I definitely want to do. And then I never hear back from them.
Yeah, I understand that one. And talk, there are folks out there right now who are listening uh, who are looking at you saying, that's not way. There's no way that kid is 13 and he's done all that and had that kind of success. And here I am. I still can't, get to whatever it is they're trying to do. So, what advice would you give to them about being determined and sticking with their journey, or in starting their own business, becoming their own boss, etc.? What advice would you give to someone out there who's struggling along, trying to figure it out, but hasn't quite made it?
I would say just start. As long as you just start what you're wanting to do, just anything. Because I created my flashcards, they look pretty much hideous. They had terrible packaging. They were huge flashcards, but I later remodeled them. But the thing is, about that is that at least I started. And I was able to scale up and grow and eventually remodel those flashcards and keep growing until I created my financial bus.
Okay. Now, you mentioned before about all the no's. And one of the things that you would talk to people about is, hey, understand you're going to have a lot of no's. And Dr. Harris, you mentioned the same thing, that you recognized his ability to, say, hey, yeah, they said no, let me move on. Mm-hmm. Talk about the biggest, because people are going to be out there thinking, oh, this kid had it easy. He had two parents who were very supportive and who taught him all the things about business and blah, 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 blah. And that he never made a mistake and all those things. And you just kind of, insinuated about a couple. Maybe I would have done my packaging different, etc. But talk about something that you, at the moment, just went completely sideways. Not at all the way that you wanted it to do. That it was, I don't want to say a disaster, but it was not the outcome that you were wanting, hoping, etc. Talk about that situation or scenario, and what your response to that was.
Well, one of my products that I created, it was like these budgeting magnets, so you would be able to pick a career, you pick a car, a house, just go along the different journey, picking the different things you wanted, with be a doctor, a business owner, just different things such as that. And the product didn't go exactly how I wanted it to. I was able to learn from my mistakes and create a better product so people were able to learn easier from it. It was a more beneficial product.
Okay. Very good lesson. Very good lesson. So let's talk a little bit about how folks can get involved with Caden financial literacy. So for folks who are listening out there in Black Business Expo USA land, how can they get involved with your company, and how can they benefit from some of the things that you offer with Caden financial literacy?
Yes, you can connect with me through my Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, all at Caden Teaches. And if you go to my Instagram or my website, you can go to my Facebook group where you'll be able to learn a ton. And it's so easy. It's so easy that I've been able to teach my program to special needs kids, and they enjoyed it and they had an amazing time. So it's just a very beneficial thing to learn from.
Now, are there ways that they can get involved from an investment standpoint? Are there things that you have on the horizon about that?
Yes, it will. Everything there is under my website, and that's one thing that will be added to my curriculum as well.
Super. Dr. Harris, let's talk a little bit about your more additional advice or guidance for parents out there who have children 11, 12, 13, or maybe even younger. Some advice that you would give them, additional advice, that you would give them in terms of, how to build financial literacy, how to build entrepreneurship, how to support your child. I know one of the things that often comes up is parents literally telling kids what their careers should be, versus, letting them discover, et cetera. Is there anything else that you would, from, the learnings that you had being raised the way that you were, or the things that good or bad, mistakes or successes that you had in raising your two entrepreneurs that you would advise, parents out there listening to this program?
Yes, one of the biggest things I always say is fertilize and cultivate their vision, their dreams. My parents always gave me the options that most of us get when we're in high school. You're going to either go to college, you go to the military, or get a job. Well, I didn't want to go to college at that time. I didn't like being told what to do, so I didn't want to go get a job. So I went to the military. They still kind of told me what to do.
I was going to say, you didn't like to be told what to do?
They still told me what to do. But the biggest thing I would say to stress to parents is that they are an integral part in the success of the kid. Here's what I mean by that. Many times when kids come and see Caden and they learn about financial literacy concepts and principles, it has to be reinforced when they go home. So many times the parents are like, oh, that's just a pipe dream. Go to school, get a degree, and go get this good job and work the 40-40-40 plan. And that's why we work 40 hours a week for 40 years to retire on 40% of what we already couldn't live on in the first place. Mm-hmm. So I think it's critically important that parents grasp hold of their kids' financial futures and give them options, because we're traditionally taught in school. It's like as a baby, we're told what to do by our parents. Then they ship us off to school, and then we're told what to do by a teacher, whether it's raise your hand to go to the bathroom. We tell you what time you're going to be hungry and go to lunch. We tell you what time you're going to be tired and go home and do your homework. Then we're handed over to an employer typically, where they then tell us what time we're hungry, what time we want to take a restroom break, etc. So at no point are children taught to be critical thinkers. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important that we teach kids at an early age responsibilities. When Kennedy and Caden could barely reach the top of the counter, we'd hand them the card. Hey, utilize the card and conduct this financial transaction. Wait right there until you get your change back. How much change are you supposed to get back? If you tip, if you're tipping 20%, how much is 20%? These are the things we have to start incorporating kids early in life if we expect them to have what I call the fair, unfair advantage. We built our kids, and notice I use the word built. We built our kids and placed them on third base from the beginning. Mm-hmm. So when you have a runner on third base in baseball, practically anything you do at the plate other than striking out, you have a high probability and propensity to score that run on third. So if it's a pop fly deep enough, they're going to score. If the base hit, they're going to score. And even if you strategically place a bunt down the first base line, they're still going to score. So that's what parents have to position themselves to do with their kids, is to give them the fair, unfair advantage to have true success.
I coach youth sports and train youth athletes, and baseball is one of those key ones. And one of the things I teach my players is there's 28 ways to score from third base with less than 2 outs. And what you're saying is, hey, if you're on third base, there's 28 metaphorically 28 ways, and I can be successful in my life and move forward, et cetera, et cetera. So teaching them how to kind of teaching parents how to get their kid to third base so that their kid can find their way home.
Absolutely.
Good. Anything else you want to share with folks that you think might be useful for them in creating their team of entrepreneurs in their kids?
One of the key things we do is it's all about your sphere of influence. My wife and I, we don't believe in arranging marriages necessarily, but we do believe in arranging environments. What do I mean by that? Caden and Kennedy's, most of their peers are high achievers, other kid business owners. So what this does, it gives them a pool or a pond from which they can fish from as they continue to grow with the same peer group. Mm-hmm. I highly recommend that parents put their kids in groups of higher achievers, because one thing we teach Kenny and Caden, even though some people may look at them as the big fish or the big dog on the playground, you always want to make sure you're a puppy on somebody else's playground. You want to always make sure you're a guppy in someone else's pond, lakes, oceans, and seas. So as parents, I'm going to encourage them to submerge your kids in their skill sets and not necessarily force them down this one direction that the traditional school system usually teaches us, that you have to follow this protocol for success. One thing that Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, had stated one time, he said that a college degree does not ensure success, just as its absence does not ensure failure. Mm-hmm. So we have to make sure that we teach kids, no matter what your learning style is or what your aptitude is, that you can still win in different various ways. One of my personal mentors, Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, he told me one time sitting in his office at Clark, Atlanta, he was looking out the window. And I'll say, I'm a C student. I asked him a question about C students. He said, Sean, take a look out the window. He said, there's people down at the promenade. He said, a lot of A students end up teaching B students who often work for C students. And those same people down by the promenade, those are the D students. And he said that those D students, well, they name buildings after them. So that was a revelation to really understand that we have to base kids based on their aptitude and their skill sets, and not necessarily just based on a school curriculum grade that they get.
Right. Okay. Good. Caden, 2 questions for you, because I'm going to give you the last word on all of this. One is, obviously, with doing your program, you've made some adjustments, et cetera. How do you take feedback that you're getting from users of your program or buyers of your program, and incorporate those changes back into the content of your program?
Yes, so I'll take the feedback that I get from them, I'll put it back into the program, I'll make it to where they're able to learn it's what they wanted and pretty much what they asked for, and they get it in a fun and interactive way still.
Okay. Last question is this. After all we've talked about, what is it you want people to know who are entrepreneurs, business owners, who want to be entrepreneurs or business owners, who are struggling to be entrepreneurs or business owners, or who are just a kid trying to figure out, is there any last nuggets you want to impart on them that you want to explain, tell them about, from the conversation we've had?
Yes, I would say make sure that you follow your gift, because God gives everyone a gift. You just have to figure out what that gift is and find a way to implement it into your life. Because oftentimes many people say to follow your passion, Well, sometimes your passion may not always be the thing that leads you to success. For example, I'm a wrestling fan, but am I ever going to be a wrestler? No. Which is why you have to follow your gift. I have a gift in speaking and inspiring and teaching kids. And am I a speaker? Yes. So make sure that you always follow your gift. And one story that I love is The Rock because he had a passion in playing football. And he ended up getting cut and going to wrestling. But he found that he had a gift in entertaining and sports entertainment instead of just sports, and now he's able to pour his gift into his passion now. So not saying that your passion can't be your gift, but make sure that you always follow your gift so you can pour back into your passion.
Well said. So, with that, we're going to end the conversation here. I know we'll be hearing lots more from you, Caden, as time goes by. Looking forward to it. Love to have you both back onto the program. Any opportunity and chance you get. And Caden, just so people know, so now that you finish high school, plowing all your time into the business, got some other ventures, just going to go travel for a while. What's on the horizon for you personally?
For me, I get more time to be a kid and more time to put into my craft and business as well.
Good. Well, good luck on all of those endeavors. Dr. Harris, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
It was a pleasure. And I know folks are out there. Some are just saying, I can't do that. So you've inspired a lot of folks on the Black Business Network there, Caden. So thank you very much for that as well. And as we say, genius is common, and I'll see you on the other side.
And remember, if Caden can, you can too.
All right. That was definitely inspiring. And so I hope you guys got as much out of that as I did in terms of the knowledge that he was imparting. And as it says in scripture, from the mouths of babes comes, tremendous, knowledge, education, and information. So